Hey everyone, my name is Amy. I am your hidden consumer expert, and today we're going to talk about bread, wine, and yeast. And what do they all have in common? And why did I suddenly decide I needed to talk about this? So I'll give you a quick book update. If you don't know, I wrote a book and it is almost ready to go to the printer. Um, and it's not showing up. Isn't that fun? Hang on. There we go. Nope, it literally isn't showing up. Awesome. It'll be in the show links. Yay! So if you go to the hiddenconsumer.com/home, you can learn all about my book. The fun thing about my book is I finally did the final proofreading and the layout came out towards me. So yay, I got to see the book in what it's going to look like. It's around 160 pages, not bad. So not a super big hardcover book, right? We did remove the resource guide out of the back of it because that was too many more words. So what I did is I'm going to turn the resource guide is going to become 3 resource guides that I'm going to be giving out to people. So look for those, sign up for newsletters, things like that, which I might have to update my newsletter sign up information now. But all that will be coming out. If you sign up for the book, I'll give details on what it means if you sign up for the newsletter. I'm not one of those like, oh my God, every day you're going to get an email. You'll be lucky if you get an email once a week. The people already on the newsletter list are like, Amy, hey, what's the update? Because you don't email us enough. So you don't get a lot of emails from me. It just is what it is. So check out the book. But the final layout is done. I did an 11-hour. Wow, nothing is showing up today. This is fascinating. I did an 11-hour session on just proofreading. I took some breaks in there, so I think it was a total time span of like a 15-hour day, and I spent most of it proofreading, which probably means I missed something because that's kind of what that means when I do things like that. Wow, my system is not working today. Okay, well, we're going to just move on, and the links hopefully will show up in the notes. So here we go. Book should be at the printer. At the end of the day, the book should be at the printer. So all good there. Which means I will have initial copies if everything plays out right. September 3rd, when I'm at the 19th Annual Women in Business Conference. Check out my book page or my company page to see more information on that, get links and all that good stuff. But I should have some limited copies to sell. I won't have a bunch because it's a pre-order even for me. Got to make sure we get them. Plus, books are heavy and I have to carry them. So you'll get what this disabled girl can carry. That's what it's going to come down to. So first come, first serve. No pre-orders at the table. So there's that for you. So let's go back to wine, bread, and cheese. So part of the book, I talk about my adventure with food and the complications I've had and things of that nature. And it was over a decade where I went without bread because I couldn't find safe yeast. So we finally found something. And the problem with yeast is this: if it's commercially grown, it's shelf stable. And when you have shelf stable yeast, meaning you can buy it in your baking section and it's not in the refrigerated section, it means it's going to live longer, right? Unfortunately, commercial yeast is grown on corn. And because of my allergy and being a parts per billion sensitive, I can't handle any yeast that is commercially grown or shelf stable. So for me to find safe yeast to finally make bread, it was like August of 2022. My husband was done. I was losing crackers. He was looking for an option. And he started really asking me the questions about what do you need in a safe yeast, since that's kind of what was stopping us at that point. I had found safe flour. Some of the other ingredients, most like I don't have baking sodas, baking powders, but that will be in one of the guides. But for yeast, it comes down to it has to be keep refrigerated, may die in transit, but will replace for free if it dies in transit, right? So a decade of searching, finally found refrigerated yeast. Yay! It's fantastic. And so August, we started making bread. I did a trip in October to Texas, and I had fresh bread with me instead of like crackers and chips. It was great, which aren't really crackers and chips aren't really safe, but I needed something while I'm away for 3 or 4 days. So I had my safe yeast. So one of the things to talk about here though is when it comes to yeast, you get it's a trade-off, right? If you're not having wild yeast or refrigerated yeast, a live culture, true live culture of yeast, you're getting your shelf stable. And there's a huge difference in what that means. The shelf stable is really, it's shelf stable, great. But in order to get that quality where you can put it in a dry goods aisle and it can sit there for like a while, years, maybe a decade, I don't know, you lose the taste. So I remember, fun story, growing up, and this would have been the '80s, still the '80s. My grandma, my maternal grandma, was all about making her own bread, and she would not buy store-bought bread. Didn't taste the same, and she's right, it probably didn't. They were probably using commercial yeast by the late '80s as well. But she just refused to. And part of it was it tastes different, right? Her bread had such a different quality to it. It always had this amazing taste versus store bought, which is it's store bought. Like it's stale, it's gross. Yes, you get consistency, right? Right. Commercial, when you can control the yeast, you're going to get more consistency than you do in your wild natural cultures. But you don't get the flavors either. So trade off. She eventually got tired of making bread all the time and she did eventually switch. And I just remember her always complaining, this bread isn't as good as the stuff I used to make. And now that I make bread, I'm like, yeah, no bread can compare to what I make. Totally get it now. Being, that kid of the 80s, and roles have now reversed. I do have to make bread if I want it. I can't go to the store. So why did this memory click for me? My husband and I went to France as I did a whole series of videos on our trip to France. And one of the things that came back that really shocked me was that I had this ability to drink everything. And I'm talking alcohol. Let's be clear. I'm talking alcohol. I don't get to drink a lot. I'm not I have to be really specific of what I buy in the United States because of how my body reacts to everything in this country. I had to think about it. I could live like a real person, not having to really think about what I put in my body. There's still a few things I have to watch even in Europe, but for the most part, I could be a normal person. Great. But we came back and we're like, what's going on? I'm just chalking it up to it's organics. They do a much better job of how they grow their organic grapes, how they fertilize, how they don't use pesticides. Like everything is just so much cleaner than we do in the United States. I was just chalking it up to a better fruit. But my husband, he gets on these wild tangents and he has to know what's going on. So he emailed all these people. We're talking to people. Yeah, that will be a whole nother video on itself about people and their ideas and how what I put in my body and medical diagnoses that they don't agree with. That's a side topic. Let's not rant there yet today. So we're talking and we're talking, and something came up, and someone said something about yeast, and I'm like, okay, I can't say probably because there's some language that probably shouldn't be used when I do these lives, but I use some language and I'm like, why did I not make the connection? It took me forever to find a safe yeast for my bread. Why did I not immediately think yeast was the problem in my wines? So a couple of things. When it comes to wines, I have yet to meet a winemaker or a vintner who is truly willing to sit down and we can talk through the full process. I want to know how you're growing your grapes. What's that soil quality? What are you adding to the soil? Where do your grapes come from? Blah, blah, blah. And then once it gets harvested, what's that process of harvesting? What do you do? What are those next steps? Each step of the way, there might be an ingredient added, like yeast. And yeast has never comes up in any conversation that I've had with vintners about the type of yeast they use. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that because of my reactions to all American wine, even the stuff I call safe isn't truly safe. I'm still having a reaction, just willing to put up with that reaction better than I am if I drink something else that's outside of what I can find into what I can tolerate well. Didn't say, yeah, it's not safe. I tolerate it well. And when yeast doesn't come up, it doesn't click in my brain, right? So I didn't think about it. But in the United States, all wine that I have found is made with commercial yeast. So one of the things in January, we had gone out to Paso for a week. I love Paso. I've been going there as often as possible since 2018, at least, twice a year since 2018. And we went to Tablas Creek. They are an amazingly very environmentally focused vineyard. And I'm like, okay, I have to be able to see if I can drink their wines. I struggled. I had to put my same questions around it like I do everything else because it wasn't as safe as I was hoping it would be. It might be worth going back and trying again just to see, but it would be with someone else who could let me have a sip and then they get to have the rest of the tasting. But they do everything right. I mean, and I will tell you, they are the poster child for international organic sustainability within viticulture. So if you're looking at what does sustainability look like, what are the processes we're trying to bring in, Tablas Creek is a great one to look at to see what they're doing, because they're doing a lot of things really well. From a hidden consumer perspective, they're still missing the boat. So that's kind of why I wanted to go there. I'm like, ooh, what can we figure this out? And so this whole trip to France made me bring it all back together. And I understand now why yeast is such a huge deal. But yeast is used in many things. So now when I'm looking at my packages, I have to be like, okay, given our shift in how we make our ingredients, especially this year alone, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but if you have food sensitivities since February, they probably are off the charts and you're probably getting sick a lot easier. And a lot of that comes down to the lack of USDA inspectors that are now out there. So companies can really do whatever they want to your food without any legal step in. So that's a problem. So just be careful. Like I've developed almost consistent fluid in my ears. I'm actually worried if it's going to turn into an infection down the road, like my sinuses did many, many years ago that got me started on all this. So if you have food sensitivities, if you are concerned about your health, be extremely careful with what you're buying right now. We can't guarantee our food is truly safe anymore. And if you can, and you're upset with me saying that, you need to reach out because I need to show you how to market your product differently to give confidence to consumers like me, who are roughly 60% of the consumer buying base in the United States. So there you go. And for that, work with Amy. Check out my link on that. So in the book, I talk about the importance of yeast and why these commercial grown, I actually did talk about it. I don't think I went that depth into it, but that's what this is for, my lives, because a book is a moment in time and I get to expand on everything I wrote, and it's a good thing I did. So there you go. I just went off on tangents. It's great. Okay, so if you have questions, let me know. You can message me on or direct message me on my social media channels. LinkedIn is the easiest one to get a hold of me on. If you are curious about the work I do, check out hiddenconsumersconsulting.com. It will give you all the fun information about what it is I do, how I work. I have two main areas. I have my consulting business, which really talks about and digs into marketing around your product with purpose in natural and organic industries. Could be food, cosmetics, skincare. I show you what you need to do to really bring in more buyers. And I help set it up. It's not just I talk, you do the work. I do some of the work as well, but I need to work with your team. The other thing I do in my business is digital foundations. And it's really about, because everything does come back to the website, even in the work I do as a consultant, I always go back and look at your website, because your website needs to be the base of information. And I show you how we can talk about different ways to set that up. So if you go to my link tree, there's a few different links there. I limited it down to 3. I used to have 5, and I'm like, yeah, we don't need those. So there's 3 links there. There's 3 social media links at the very bottom. But check out my sites, check out my book. It'll be out before you know it. So September 16th is literally around the corner. I'm just like, I am 6 weeks away. It's exciting. Anyways, so there you go. So that is the connection between bread, wine, and yeast. They all come together, and commercial yeast is used in everything. It also explains why I can't eat a lot of bakery food, right? I mean, among other things. But yeah, your homemade food is going to typically be made with your dry packet of yeast, not your refrigerated yeast, and that's going to make the difference. So if you have questions, if you just want to talk about how I look at marketing differently to bring in more consumers, just schedule a talk. Email me or message me through LinkedIn or on my other social media channels, and I will give you some times that we can chat, either Zoom, phone, or in person, depending on your location. So have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the beautiful weather here in Southern California. We are looking forward to a 100-degree day, and my AC came on 30 minutes ago. It's going to be a hot one, peeps. Enjoy.